have to tell each and every one of you that it doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are, your age, you can achieve anything that you set your mind to. And I always say, if I can do it, anyone can do it. And
there's a lot that's been written and said. Some of it upset me, but I didn't let it linger on because, you can't live that way.
I always look for myself to be better because I strive to be better, I work to be better, and if I'm not better, it's tough for me.
Your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do.
I was given a gift by my father on not being afraid to fail. So I think failure and your attitude and the way that you embrace the fear of failure is a big part of where we end up in our lives.
And it requires a lot of discipline. That's one thing God had given me when I was young. It was some discipline to get up and try to make the right decisions. And when your priorities are in order and you could make decisions based on what your priorities are, I believe, you can extend your career.
So the moment you can figure out what it is you're supposed to be doing, the sooner you are able to get about the business of doing that.
I never feel that I'm at my best. I feel I still have room to improve. I still set goals for myself to strive for. I'm never complacent with what I've achieved.
I think out of being just a generally positive person, you can make positive things happen.
But my mother, in my mind, was rockin' amazing because she raised 10 kids with hardly any money to even feed us and did a phenomenal job and was so positive in every way.
Leadership is the ability to put a group of human beings into an environment where they want to do what you need done. And they believe in you, they trust you, you trust them, you believe in them.
But to me, the real key to winning is all about mindset. Mindset in your organization. All right, that's what's going to help you win.
The best, they did not get lucky. They all faced adversity in their life journeys. Sure, they all have talent, but they have something else. They all discovered the road that leads to best. All of us here today have unique talents. We all have unique backgrounds. We all have unique life stories that include facing our own unique set of challenges. While we are indeed all unique, we do share two things in common. First, we all want to become our personal and professional best. And second, we are all, every one of us, is falling short of doing so more or less, which is exactly why we developed our personal and professional best program. It was created to encourage you, to inspire you, and to educate you. It was created to provide a roadmap that leads you to your best. That journey continues today. We invited 4 individuals who are indeed some of our industry's best to share their secrets, their roadmap to best. To start it off, we're joined by the co-founder of Keller Williams Realty in the Southeast region, Kay Evans. This old gal is going to try real estate one more time. Those were the words that our special guest today shared with me when she was resigning her position from the organization I was responsible for, her home bank, 20 years ago. While it was difficult to lose her talent, I experienced her in the past, and I knew that this part of her story, what she's done for the last 20 years, was going to be a part of her story. And so what took place was she was one of the 2 co-founders of Keller Williams in the Southeast. She now is responsible oversighting 60 offices, 13,600 lives, real estate agents, and about $25 billion a year in real estate sales. I'd say it was a pretty good decision on her part, and she's written a great story since. Kay, welcome to Personal Professional Best.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you.
So as one of the co-founders, 60 offices, 13,600 agents, $25 billion a year, did you ever imagine when you were resigning that day, leaving, that this was all going to take place?
Well, I imagined it was going to be successful, or I wouldn't have jumped into it, because I thought the company was good, the models were good. I thought Atlanta was ready for it. But to say that I thought it would ever get to this level, no, I didn't. That was a dream.
Yeah, it often happens that way,
Yeah,
right? You know,
right.
you do something, you start out and you have a vision for it, and then it just exceeds that. And I find that with people that I've journeyed through life with that reach their best, is that there's usually, it happens that they wind up getting more success than they ever imagined. If you look back now, what are the one or two things, principle-wise, that were foundational when you got it started here, that maintain themselves over the years, that have allowed the success to take place? How do you think about that?
Well, I think the most successful thing that we have done, Bob and I together, is gotten in business with the right people, with a lot of great people. We were pretty selective in the beginning about bringing people on board, and we wanted to start it with high standards, and we wanted to get in business with the right people, and that's what we did, and it worked.
So we were talking a little bit earlier before we get started today. We talked about some projects that you've been on recently, and where if the business wasn't running great, it always came back to the leadership and the people that were involved. So relationships have been kind of principal to the success over the years for you.
Relationships are completely important. I mean, if we hadn't had relationships in the areas that we were in, I don't know, it would have taken a long time to get started, but you build relationships over years, and one day you turn around and all these relationships are there to help you fulfill a dream.
When life gets to our point where we're mature adults,
very mature.
Mature adults, right? What we reflect on is the people that have meant the most to us in life and the relationships that we've had. Who is the person or the people that have been the most influential voices in Kay Evans' life?
You know what, I can just say that without even any thought, but I know everybody says their mother or their father, but it was clearly my mother. My mother was both my personal influence and also my professional. Personal because she lived to be almost 101.
Wow.
And she had all of her mental faculties. She was current. She loved sports. She loved politics. She loved fashion. She just was, people loved to be around her. And for that reason, she taught me to always be current, always stay up with what was going on. You know, she said, you'll always have someone to talk to there. Professionally, she went to work for the first time in her entire life when she was 45. And back in that day, women didn't go to work at 45 years old. And she was in sales, and I watched her create a following that was unbelievable. She worked in a boutique. She didn't own it, but she treated it like she owned it. And I watched the level of service that she gave to everybody. And I watched her on the telephone calling people to get business when she wasn't busy. And, you know, everybody in town wanted to hire her, because that's just how she was. She just believed in maximizing every opportunity in life, and I watched her do that.
So there's an old saying that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I know someone who sounds a lot like the gal you just described.
Well, she was special in that, and she always taught me, whatever you do, whatever job you have, whatever task you take on, do the very, very best with it, and opportunities will come your way.
So I think what Kay just said is do the very best, right, at it, right? And best is one of those things, it's an activity. It's not like you get there and stay. You get there and you continue to pursue it and get better. I'm so grateful. Your mama obviously knew how you felt about her.
Oh, clearly. I had the joy of having her for the last 18 months of her life here in Atlanta. And I got to spend a lot of time with her. And of course I told her, because I wasn't always the easiest child to deal with in the family. And so I felt like I had a lot to make up for there. But I told her how meaningful she had been in my life.
That's why me and you work so well together, because growing up, I wasn't the easiest either.
I can believe that, too. Isn't that fun?
But we got to channel that rebel, right?
Yeah,
Once you get the rebel channeled.
And that's really what she was trying to do.
You know, it's important for the folks that are watching today that if there's a person in your life, a voice of influence in your life, make sure you thank him.
Absolutely.
And if it's too late to thank them and you didn't do enough thanking, then you can just reflect all the lessons that they've taught us, right? And that's a way of thanking, a way of honoring those folks. So our program's all about becoming the best version of yourself personally and professionally. Of course, we've talked about your professional successes. Some people think that folks like yourself, that it's just good fortune. You just get lucky. We both know better, right? There's a formula, humbly, to get to be successful. I wonder if you'd share a short story of some adversity that you faced, and then how did you conquer that adversity?
Keller Williams has definite models and systems that we follow, and a time or two I had a little more confidence in my abilities than proven abilities of the company, and I waved away from that and didn't go through the process in maybe hiring some people and putting some key people in a position. And once they messed it up really, really bad, then I had to go in and fix it up. Bob and I had to go in and cleaning up on aisle 9 is never fun. Okay?
Cleaning up on aisle 9 is never fun.
No.
You know, having humility, confidence, right, that we can succeed and we can be the best version of ourselves, but humility to know when we've made mistakes and made choices, take responsibility, and make sure that in our playbook going forward, we change the way we operate, right? Hard for me and you to do, though, because we're a little bit of a rebel, but it's important for people that are listening today. If you want to be your best, knowing that you've made some mistakes and taking responsibility is a pathway to getting better.
Well, I got back in the groove and I thought, this is the reason they have these models and systems, because they work. So I'm not deviating.
Stay on the highway, right? Exactly. Stay between the lines. Stay between the lines. What are you currently working on? It's so cool to catch up with you today. There was so much that we got to talk about, but what are you currently working on in your personal or your professional life to get better?
I'm working right now with the luxury group. We have a luxury group in that we call Live Luxury, and I'm sort of consulting them and helping them plan programs and activities and doing just some unique things with them. So that's what I do. But in my personal life, I've enjoyed over the last few years helping women in business. That's become a passion of mine.
I love it. Yeah.
And so I've been mentoring some people there, and I've even just helped them get started with different kinds of businesses, not necessarily real estate, just other businesses. And I also there's a women's charity here called Every Woman Works that changes lives for women. And so I have a passion for helping women in life because I've had such a great life as a woman.
One of the other things I find about people like yourself that have achieved an awful lot, past their talent, you always find certain formulas, if you will, and one of them is that people give back.
Right.
They're constantly focusing on somebody else and making a difference in someone else's life. Your mom did that for you, right? And now you're doing it for other women. Good for you. You also talked about that other guy, Glenn, right?
Yeah.
60 years married now. Congratulations.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's an unbelievable accomplishment.
It's kind of a miracle, really.
Yeah.
When you think about it.
Careful, he'll be watching the program.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a miracle that how many people get to make it 60
no,
years?
It's amazing.
Really.
No, yeah, Lisa and I just celebrated 35, so 60 is pretty amazing
it's
story.
Pretty amazing.
And Glenn's working on personally getting himself in much better shape now.
Yeah, he is. He's working with a trainer, and he's excited about moving back to Atlanta and walking everywhere. He really is at that point where he can do just about whatever he wants to do. So
Awesome.
It's pretty fun. He likes that. Yeah.
Good stuff. Yeah. So what are you not working on? Like, what is that thing right now in your personal or your professional life that you need to get to, but you haven't really kind of taken it on yet? That you want to?
Well, it's the same thing that he's working on. I need to get in shape more so than I am. I definitely need to get a trainer and work with a trainer. And I plan to do that here because our where we'll be living has a great workout room. And
awesome.
I plan to do that. So I haven't been doing that.
Well, I'll check back with you to make sure that you're...
Please hold me accountable.
I'll hold you accountable.
I'm really good at accountability. Yeah.
I'll be happy to. Let's see. If you could offer a bit of advice today. We have in the crowd, we have mortgage bankers, of course, the Supreme folks. We have mostly realtors, and then we have friends, family that are participating in our program. But if you were to just reflect back now, having had multiple successes in your career, a lot of different ways, and of course, most notably what we described today at Keller, what are like 1 or 2 or 3 pieces of advice that you would give to the audience? Like, hey, if you don't remember anything else, forget marketing programs, forget this, do these 1, 2, or 3 things, and you'll probably wind up being successful. What are those things?
Develop relationships along the way and cherish those relationships. And give when you are not going to receive anything. Just be willing to give and go the extra mile. I remember this when I was training a lot. My husband Glenn used to say, "Why are you getting in the car and driving down to Savannah and 6 hours by yourself, and you're training for $300? And why are you doing that?" And I said, because I meet great people. I have great relationships, and I just love what I do, and I love knowing a lot of people, and I love knowing people in my industry, and I love knowing people. You have no idea how those relationships have come back into my life and helped me so much. And so really, when we started Keller Williams, he said to me, "Now I know why you did that." But I really wasn't doing it for that reason, because I had no clue. But people are the most important thing to me. I miss when I'm not with people. I could never office at home. I could never be in a job where you sat in front of a computer all day. I mean, I just have to interact with people.
If we keep hanging out, I'm going to try to hire you again to be a part of it.
You know what? That was not a bad gig I had here, I'll tell you that. I love
you know
that.
what? You're contagious when you get around, because we think a lot alike. On the wall, our mission is serving others before self. It's a lesson that my pops taught me, which is don't worry about how other people treat you, but you treat them based on your character, and don't expect anything back in return. But what ultimately happens, when I just heard you say, is along the way you've done that, and a whole lot came back in return.
A whole lot came back.
And I think that message is really simple, but it's also the reason why people like yourself wind up getting to be in the position that you've come in. Because along the way, there's a trail of people who've been affected in a very positive way by your pouring into their lives.
Well, I think what I see a little bit now is that people get in a hurry to get to the top. You pay your dues. A lot of it's not easy work, but you have to give and be the best you can be at every task you have. And then opportunities do come. They absolutely do. There's no question.
My pops, when I was a little boy, taking out the garbage, he made it interesting. He was like, "Listen, you ought to do it better than anyone else on the block." So I agree with you. Whatever station you're in, instead of looking at the next station, it's about being excellent in the station that you're a part of.
Right.
So I've got a last question for you.
Okay.
In the spirit of humility and in the spirit of wanting to get better, we haven't worked together in quite some time. Right? But if you were to give me advice as a leader, just having been a part of an organization now that we were both a part of in the past, what advice could you give me to have me wind up being the best version of Pat Flood?
Wow, now that's a loaded question. I look back, I'm not just blowing smoke here. I look back on my time with Home Bank as one of the most exciting times in my whole career. It was something different. I took a risk.
Big.
You took a chance with me. I thought it was very, very exciting. The one thing I would have said to you that I wish you had changed is not had meetings at 7 o'clock in the morning on Friday morning. That's the one thing that I just
Well, we don't do it anymore.
I know, you did. You changed that. But that was the hardest thing. No, I love that. And I love that you've created something new. You've updated your current, because we're all having to change in the industry, and you have really done that. So I can't offer you any advice.
Well, thank you. Well, we've already changed the thing that you would recommend to change the 7 o'clock meetings.
That
and folks
was
here
really
don't know about
asking it, man, on Friday mornings.
That was taxing, wasn't it?
It was taxing, but it was good when we got there.
Well, I was trying to get a group of average people, because we all are, to adopt some operating principles in their life, discipline to get out of bed, to go and to do the work every single day.
Right.
Some people are just naturally talented and gifted, and it's easy for them, but those of us in life that are average, they have to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning to be in the office. Hey, Kate, go ahead.
Let me say to you that when I talked about relationships and being in business with the right people, I owe a lot to Bob Kalinsky, because he owned the region and he came into Atlanta, and Gary told him to find somebody to partner with. And I'm sure there are a lot of people that he could have selected, but I'm just really happy because we have the same rhythm for things, and that's why it works so well. So partnering, find the right partner, and the job gets a lot easier. And whoever you're in business with really does matter.
It does matter, it does matter. Hey, listen, it's been a pleasure having you today. It really has. I appreciate your time. I mostly appreciate just the person that you are, the example that you set, because having met you years ago, I admired you because of the character, the class, the commitment that you made and continue to make to be excellent in our industry, to be kind of a standard bearer for best, which is what today's program's all about. Thank you, Kay, for being a part of Personal Professional Best.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That was fun.
Hey, Kay Evans, thank you so much for your generosity, and thanks for sharing your roadmap to best in life. Next up, we have 3 guests, Gene Rawls, Rick Hale, and Henry Kaplan, who are going to share their roadmap to best. Who are the people that are in your life, 1 or 2 people, that really were voices of influence that helped shape those bedrock principles, the things that you believe in the deepest part of your heart?
Pat, I was so blessed. The people that have influenced me the most came into my life on day one, and it's truly my mother and father.
For one would be my father. He's just an amazing success story. He also confronted me in my early 20s and suggested that I lacked failure in my life. And at the time, I thought I was succeeding relative to my peer group and my friends, but what he meant by it was that I wasn't succeeding at the level of my capacity.
My dad was a CPA for 60 years. He drove to New York City from the suburbs at early as 5:30, 6 o'clock every morning, came home 6, 7 o'clock at night, and just his work ethic.
I was born into a family that had deep commitment to family and deep commitment to work ethic. And it was just by example that I was able to gain the passion that I have in life.
It's the risk, the chance, the failure that really defines who you are. And so that was a big deal, and he was a big influence on me.
My mom was the rock that held this family together, 4 children, and it was just a wonderful, loving family that is probably one of the most critical things that could have helped to guide me in my success. That support, that enthusiasm, that the encouragement that they gave us.
When you have love of family and a commitment, that goes through a child and you carry it on. So even to this day, when I have business obstacles or personal obstacles in raising my family, I look back on how they would have handled that situation in life. So,
what are those bedrock principles that you've learned from a leadership standpoint that have not only made you successful personally, professionally, but the business itself? What are those 1 or 2 things that you just absolutely can't negotiate?
Well, one is being in business with the right people. I think the quality of my life is directly tied to the quality of the people in it. And when you're in business with the right people, it's self-correcting on some level.
It's the people that you associate with. You know, like they say, you want to have a better tennis game, you play with better players.
bedrock principle number 1 is the passion, the drive for the idea, whatever your business idea is. That passion has to be so strong that it will propel you through any obstacle that happens in any day of the week, the month, the year.
The second thing is just work ethic. And I think when you suit up and show up every day, like you alluded early on, you chop wood, eventually you show up with a big stack of wood.
Anything worth having is worth working for.
Along with the passion comes work ethic. You can have all the passion in the world, but if you don't have the work ethic to really create what you're trying to create, and I think those 2 principles, truly, you will have success in what you're working towards.
Tell us about an example and how you think about overcoming adversity in your life.
When I was 12, my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer, And it was in the 70s, and technology and medicine was not as advanced. And through excellent doctors, they had shared with my father that she would have somewhere between 13 to 15 months to live. And she lived 15 months, and I was 13 and my brother was 7.
One thing comes to mind, in 2006 or 7, I decided I wanted to become a developer. And so I partnered with a couple of people who I felt were skilled at their end of the bargain and deal, and I brought some real estate prowess, and we spent about $1.6 million or $7 million, and then escalated some other expenses, well over $2 million. The market shifted. They chose to take a strategic default as the process or the direction they wanted to go with it. Hired a high-powered attorney to defend us, and it went wrong. I mean, it went really wrong.
Within 4 years, I had 5 bosses, and everyone was a little bit different, but the last one decided that I needed to learn how to march. Now, look, I had the second most productive region in the United States, South Florida, second most productive for Century 21, and all of a sudden she decided that's not the way it's going to go down.
It has prepared me for every other challenge that has come across my path in life, because the way I've looked at it is, if I could live through losing someone that was so dear to me and so important, and I could continue to thrive and grow, I could make it through the next adversities that came through my life. So there was nothing that couldn't be overcome.
And so once things went wrong, I immediately rolled up my sleeves, just separated out of that situation, and started meeting directly with the bank, and we worked out a resolution that created an awesome win-win. It was an expensive lesson.
Sometimes Floyd Wickman taught me, you have to take 1 step back sometimes to go 2 steps forward.
There's a solution to every dilemma. I mean, there's an outcome that can be favorable if you work for it.
There is, yeah.
Some of the strongest memories that I have of how you get through difficult days is bringing it back to family.
But I'll tell you this, if you want to inspire and motivate and engage with people, it's your detriment that's usually the biggest magnet. It's your situational experience that aligns with their dysfunction or their concern or their nervousness about something that allows them to let down their guard long enough to let authentic energy permeate the conversation and get real.
So what are you currently working on right now, your personal life or your professional life, to get better?
So my mission the last 2 or 3 years is just to figure out what I'm going to do for the next season. So part of what I'm working on is the evolution of me.
Making a list of priorities of what I do well so I can focus on those, and being really honest and true about what I don't do well, and find really talented people to do those things.
Agents need to, or in particular, need to hire themselves every day.
My goal is to find inspiration outside of just the corporate world. So I'm investing a lot of time with philanthropy and with charitable organizations that really tailor and cater to kids and teens. And I'm excited about that season. So I'm working on my network so that I can apply, either wealth or money or experience and time.
But the other thing I'm working on is giving grace, that you cannot be excellent at all things at all times. There are certain chapters in life that it's your time to work on that chapter, and the other things need to be put aside to allow that growth to take place in one specific area.
And my simple philosophy is life's about growing yourself to the extent you can, and then giving it all back as often as possible. And you can only give away what you have. And so my goal is to continue to connect with people and absorb what they have so that I have more to offer as a human being in pursuit of my best me.
If you're giving out a piece of advice or two today to folks in the audience to allow them to kind of unlock and become their best, what's that advice that you would offer?
To narrow it down to one piece is hard, but I believe that the one piece that I really need to work on myself also is, when writing a business plan, have a business plan that takes you to the end. I think to be so focused on how to start the business, how to run the business, but what are the options in ending the business? And so it would be exit strategy is the exact word that I'm talking about. Don't forget to finish the journey when planning your business.
My best advice is just find something you're passionate about, because you're less likely to quit. And the secret to succeeding in any industry, especially in our businesses, is just tenacity and grasping that it's a people puzzle, and it's about solving mysteries and solving people's issues and challenge.
create a niche. I mentioned that. Create a niche for yourself. Something where, don't be a man of all trades, woman of all trades, master of nothing. Specialize in something.
Become an expert at something, right?
Whatever it is. I mean, you can say, well, what examples? You want to specialize in the neighborhood. You work with certain people, speak a certain language. Do you have a certain product knowledge, a mortgage product, a real estate product? Are you the renovation expert?
Condo expert.
Yeah, exactly. And the ones that are killing it in my office have specialized.
But grit is the word that comes to mind. And I think when I think grit, I think passion, and I think nonstop, or an inability to waver or waffle from what you want to accomplish. And so people start often and don't finish often. And so what is it that's passionate, that you're passionate enough about, either personally or for the people around you, that drives you to keep pursuing the goal?
You won't quit.
Yeah, that you won't quit. It's really that simple. Don't stop, don't quit.
And year after year, building that team with the right talent is super exciting. And it's building the family. So as the team expands, the family expands.
All of our guests today reflected on the voice or voices that spoke best into their lives. Those voices made our guests who they are. Many of us have been blessed by the voice of a parent or parents of a teacher, a coach, a pastor, or a business leader. These voices made us who we are. Today, we all get to recognize those voices and we get to say thanks. You are the best. There are postcards at your location that have a simple message on them. You are the best. They already have a stamp. They just need a name and a note of thanks from you. Send the card and be that voice in someone else's life, at home, in the workplace, with everyone, everywhere. I want to thank Kay, Jean, Rick, and Henry for being so generous with their time. They all shared their roadmap to best. These are the directions that I left with. Succeeding in relationships is the most important road we travel in life. Make sure people are more valuable than profit. Powerful stuff. Adopt a mindset that best is the place you want to go. Live with and work with passion everywhere you go and in everything you do. Know that the road to best will cross path with adversity, and know that adversity conquered will make you better. Finally, have a life plan in writing. And remember, it's not where you are today that matters, it's where you're going that matters most. I'm taking the road that our guest recommended, and I trust that I will be transformed as a result, and I will become